essentially, this is the way I see it, is that she absolutely hates her. Blake was toxic. She was a narcissist in her life.
This subpoena, this cannot happen. You cannot see these messages.
Right now, if Taylor had one wish, it would be that she never met Blake.
Blake Lively is unraveling because the judge used Taylor Swift's evidence. Right after Blake made one thing crystal clear: there's no forgiveness for betrayal.
Taylor Swift wins again. New information trickles out in a TMZ article regarding her working with Justin Baldoni's side. Oh boy, case closed if you're Blake Lively on this one.
You don't get to bully the queen of pop and expect a friendship bracelet back. Taylor didn't utter a word, yet she exposed Blake's alleged blackmail like a queen. Cold, calculated, and utterly savage.
I got to say goodbye to him Friday morning at about 6:30. We were both bawling so hard. It was pretty emotional. We were expecting it, but you know, the bad thing was I spent all this money on some of the best immigration lawyers.
Ever seen someone so delusional they think a dropped subpoena is a win? Welcome to Blake Lively's tragic, self-scripted reality show, where her hair mist gathers dust on Target shelves and her fake friendships collapse faster than her skincare promises. Taylor Swift just delivered the coldest betrayal in Hollywood without lifting a single finger.
The big news yesterday was that Justin Baldoni dropped the subpoena against Taylor Swift, and Blake Lively's team was celebrating it as a win.
Taylor didn't say a word in public, didn't hold a press conference, didn't run to the media like Blake's circus crew. Yet she demolished Blake's victim narrative by simply existing. This wasn't betrayal, it was surgical annihilation.
Almost nobody believes Blake Lively.
Let's be real. Taylor Swift didn't just flip sides. She discreetly handed Justin Baldon's legal team everything they needed. No flashing cameras, no drama, just quiet, calculated cooperation.
Braun is actually actively involved is unclear. Ironically, he is personally represented not by Nathan, but by Stephanie Jones.
And here's the best part. Blake never saw it coming. She truly believed her so-called dragon would breathe fire on command to save her from the legal storm she brewed. Turns out, the only dragon Taylor was protecting was her billion-dollar empire, and rightly so.
Taylor Swift does not want to have to be deposed. She doesn't want to have her dirty laundry aired and all of her text messages read and all of that jazz. So she says, here's the email you guys need. Take it. Get me the F out of here.
Now Blake's camp will scream that the subpoena was dropped, as if that proves Taylor isn't involved. Think again. The subpoena was dropped because Taylor's side already delivered the goods. The dirt's been handed over, just not through courtroom theatrics.
Now that Justin has withdrawn the subpoena sent to Taylor and her legal team after the firm objected to the amount of the unwarranted fishing expedition, etc., Lively's team was quick to reply with a statement and said that we are pleased that Justin and the Wayfair parties have withdrawn their harassing subpoenas to Taylor Swift and her law firm.
It came through the VIP door, behind the scenes, no invite needed. And guess who allegedly held the door? Daddy Swift himself. Scott Swift, the mogul behind empires, who doesn't mess around when someone crosses his daughter. You thought pain was scary? Try getting a call from Scott Swift. That's the sound of your entire PR stunt turning to ash.
Others have started reporting on what we alluded to when this initially broke, because I told you guys, look, I still firmly believe it, and I'm hearing it more and more through sources and people I'm talking to. There's only 3 people that this source who told Justin's team that they were extorted could be Tree, Taylor's manager publicist, or her dad, Scott, or her mom. Now I'm leaning more towards her parents more and more.
Let's rewind, because this whole subpoena drama was one of Blake Lively's sloppiest power moves ever, and that's saying something. On April 28th, Justin Baldon's team subpoenaed Venable LLP, Taylor's law firm, not Taylor herself. So, no, Swift wasn't personally dragged into court, but her legal team was absolutely under the microscope.
As Taylor Swift is now being extorted and threatened with all these text messages to come out, that doesn't help her brand at all. And she's a very powerful business with a huge fan base.
And what followed? Venable tried to quash the subpoena by May 12th, claiming they weren't directly involved. Cute, except they didn't deny the actual allegations. And that part really matters.
On May 12th, 10 days later, Taylor Swift's law firm files to have the subpoena quashed. They're like, we don't want to be involved in this. please get us, we shouldn't have to abide by this subpoena.
Then came May 13th. Mr. and Mrs. Perfection TM jumped in with a motion to block the same subpoena. Smells like panic. If you're innocent, why block a subpoena to a law firm that doesn't represent you? Why jump in at all, unless you're desperate, to stop something from surfacing? And sure enough, the very next day, Brian Freriedman entered the courtroom with a bombshell letter that ignited the whole case.
Exactly what it says right here. They got what they wanted. Now, if they have proof that Taylor's lawyer was threatened, if that's all real, that will come out in the process. And they clearly wanted it out there to send a warning shot to Blake and Ryan, who think they're on the road, winning, and they're winning, but no. If they can prove.
Let me paint this picture. On May 14th, Freriedman's letter accuses Blake Lively, America's sweetheart on the surface, chaos gremlin underneath, of witness tampering and destroying evidence.
Justin Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, was subpoenaing Taylor Swift's lawyers for information, Taylor Swift as well, for information related to an extortion attempt they claim was happening by Blake Lively's lawyer and Blake Lively to Taylor Swift.
Specifically urging Taylor Swift to delete 10 years of texts. 10 years. That's not a typo or some one-off shady moment. That's a decade of private conversations Blake allegedly wanted vanished, like her shampoo brand's reputation. Why? Because those texts probably blow up every victim narrative she's fed the media.
If they can prove that Taylor Swift's team and lawyers, in fact, confirmed or gave them the evidence to show that they were asked not to do this, oh man, Blake, you are in so much trouble. So much trouble.
And if you thought it was messy already, buckle up. This is when Blake grabs the shovel and digs her own grave, then hands it to her lawyer. Yes, her lawyer. The one who allegedly called Taylor's attorney with a friendly threat. Issue. A statement supporting Blake, or we release the private texts. That's not PR, it's textbook extortion.
Will do literally anything to prevent Taylor Swift's text messages from being seen by the public. That's you and me. Why is that? Because Taylor Swift is worth $1.6 billion, my friends.
And you know what Taylor's lawyer did? Hung up, immediately. Didn't even say, I'll call back. Just hit end like it was a scam call from a fake tax guy. That's how filthy the threat was.
That Taylor Swift could try to quash the subpoena. That didn't happen. Instead, Justin Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, pulled out from the subpoena. And now what we find out in this article is going to show the game plan moving forward.
Now it gets even more insane. On Valentine's Day, February 14th, Brian Freriedman gets a voicemail. Not a random anonymous tip, a call from someone very close to Taylor. What followed was a 1-hour phone call, laying out everything. The texts, the threats, the power games.
Sources with direct knowledge tell us, TMZ, Baldoni's side dropped the subpoena after information was voluntarily provided to them. Pfft, what?
And while Freriedman didn't name the source publicly, it's heavily implied to be Scott Swift. You know, Taylor's dad, the guy who doesn't do press, doesn't play around, and absolutely doesn't let his daughter get dragged through legal slime without swinging back.
Brian Friedman apparently delivered as they said, well, we dropped the subpoena because we got all the information we needed. And, that's how you kind of, it's kind of like how a plea deal works out with prosecutors, where rather than, face going to trial and going to jail for 5 years, you do a plea deal, which maybe you get just probation for admitting to a lesser crime, right?
And what triggered Scott Swift's wrath? The Super Bowl. Yep. Apparently Blake freaked out because Taylor wasn't seen with her at the 2025 Super Bowl. That's it. That's the whole motive. In Blake's galaxy brain logic, not being seen with Taylor meant their friendship would be exposed as fake.
Didn't say these words. This is my gathering. Is that she was a narcissist, and that over the years, it was all this stuff happening. It was chaotic being friends with her, and that it is just like a release.
So instead of accepting that maybe, just maybe, Taylor didn't want to be seen with a walking lawsuit, Blake allegedly tried to force her into a photo op friendship. Taylor refused. then release the texts.
And that's a big word, voluntarily cooperating right there. So very, very interesting stuff. Here's what old Billy Ballbag Bush has to say.
Okay, some fantastic maneuvering here in the lively Baldoni situation.
That hair.
Like Brian Friedman withdrew his subpoenas of Taylor Swift, not because he had to, but because he likely got what he needed already behind the scenes, possibly through a private negotiation or a cooperation deal. Maybe Scott Swift, who knows?
This isn't just messy, it's pathetic. Blake Lively is having a full-on PR meltdown and trying to drag a billion-dollar brand into her personal drama. You don't threaten Taylor Swift. Not when she's worth $1.6 billion. Not when her tours boost GDPs. Not when her silence shouts louder than your entire legal team's fake sob story.
And they're kind of freaking out here because their plan didn't work to send her away and say she bought a puppy with Travis Kelce. Leave her alone. She's off tour. She's tired. Didn't work. Like I said, not a normal response. Way too emotional. And what happened next, really in the media, was kind of a flash in the pan.
So what did Taylor do? Nothing. She didn't post. She didn't speak. She let the facts do the talking. She let her team handle it. Quietly, professionally, and with more power than Blake could ever fake on a Vanity Fair cover. Now Blake clings to expired beauty mist and broken friendships while the industry watches in silence, because nobody's defending a bully disguised as a victim.
And now she decided to launch a mist. I spoke about that the other day. In the middle of all this drama with Taylor Swift, it's the worst timing ever imaginable.
Blake Lively seriously thought she could gaslight the internet? Like we don't have brains, receipts, and working eyes? The second Justin Baldwin's team dropped Taylor's subpoena, Blake's PR gremlins scattered from their caves to declare a win. Yeah, nothing says legal victory like they stopped asking questions because they already got the answers. That's not a win. It's a strategic surrender. Also known as the moment Taylor's silence outplayed Blake's 12-person crisis PR squad.
In a surprising reversal, Team Justin Baldoni has dropped their subpoena request from Taylor Swift. Now, of course, Blake Lively and most of the mainstream media is jumping on this as a win towards Blake, but it's not. We need to discuss.
Let's talk about that infamous statement from Taylor's team. If you think you know the word dismissive, wait till you read it. She didn't just decline involvement. She torched the bridge, bulldozed the ashes, and dropped a glitter bomb on the ruins.